One of the things that really drew me to this game, Blades in the Dark, is it's just very interesting. It has some very interesting ways of handling storytelling, and the mechanics I think are simple, but there's a nice depth to them. And also the fact that the setting is kind of Dishonored-esque with sort of like that Victorian era, but it's got sort of a magic punk feel to it, made me really interested in it, and then the more I've delved into it, the more I've fallen in love with it. So you guys are going to be playing characters who are part of a crew of ne'er-do-wells, thieves, mercenaries, assassins, whatever you want to be, in the city of Duskwall, or Duskwall, and your goal is to basically move up the ranks and develop your gang into something formidable, and in the process try to save up enough coins so that you can have a nice cushy retirement before the horrible city of Duskwall beats you into the ground. So it's a good time.
Yay!
Yeah. Do you guys have any questions about the setting before we jump into character creation?
I would say, are you sure it's not Dunwall?
Yeah, John Harper, the designer, definitely took a lot of influence from Dishonored, and even just with the name Dunwall, Duskwall.
Yeah.
So
I've looked at them, and I know kind of what character I kind of want to play.
Okay.
I just, Gerrit, do you know what playbook you're gonna go with?
The Whisper.
Oh yeah.
The Whisper. Okay.
That one at least. I was looking because it looked like mages messing with demons.
Yep.
Whatnot. Ghosts. Sounded like fun.
Oh yeah.
Plus, I was messing around with spirits and stuff in the Shadowrun, so it helped me keep everything in one track.
In one wheelhouse, pretty much.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I was looking at the cutter, so at least we have someone with some close combat expertise to keep you safe.
Yeah, it'll be interesting just having two people. I mean, hopefully at some point we can rope in a couple others to round out the group. But I think two people will be fine for now.
Yeah, we'll at least learn the system, and that way when we introduce someone else to it, we'll be able to show them the ropes, like our characters will show them the ropes. So.
Exactly. And one of the nice things about this system, unlike something like D&D, is that we don't have... Balancing it is a little bit easier. Like, you don't have to worry about balance so much, because... I mean, you get dice for the number of dots that you have in every action possibility, every skill, basically.
Right.
And that's the number of dice that you roll. So it's a dice pool system, and then 1 to 3 is a failure, 4 and 5 is a partial success, and then 6 is a full success.
So it's a modified Shadowrun system.
Partially modified Shadowrun, partially a modified Powered by the Apocalypse, because you take the highest die. So, like, if you roll 4 dice and you get a 1, 2, a 4, and a 6, the 6 is the only die that matters.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I like that a bit better than the roll 20 dice and you have to count all of them.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's definitely usually you're not going to be rolling more than 4 or 5 dice. And it's always whatever the highest one is, with the exception of if you have no ranks in a skill and you try to roll it, you roll 2d6 and you take the lower. So I mean that's basically the only difference. So that just represents not as good at doing that thing, so it's a little more difficult. All right. So Cutter and Whisper. Well, which one of you wants to go first? Well, we can kind of step through this at the same time.
I say I'll go first.
Okay. So you picked your playbook. So choose one of the special abilities, Siege and Gerrit.
I was looking at not to be trifled with.
Yes. Yeah.
Because basically the idea was he's just this good swordsman that no one wants to get close to.
Yeah, and the scale to a small gang, that will come into play. So like if you're you could take on like 3 or 4 people by yourself, and you wouldn't take any penalties for that. Somebody else.
That's kind of what I assumed it was.
Yeah. So that's definitely a nice one.
Yep, and it's not. It's more. I'm looking at it as more. He tries to avoid. He's not gonna bash someone's face in, but he can keep them at bay.
Right.
So
let me get my notebook set here.
I was to say, can you do they have character sheets for this on Roll20?
They do, actually. So if you go, it should already be set up, so you just have to go over to the newspaper-looking one and hit add.
You, as the GM, are the only one that can add.
Oh, well then I should do that right now. And then,
and then you'll have to make it so I can edit.
Yes.
Because I was looking at doing that for Shadowrun just to help with record keeping, is having everyone's character sheet and the bad guys' character sheets. And
yeah.
Voila! I got it.
Okay. And we'll do another one.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, so you've got your name and all that stuff. So I think if you go to the playbook tab, then that's where you can click on that first special ability, type in what it is and what it does. Gerrit, for the
I think
whisper.
I'm going to do Tempest.
Tempest.
Summon Fog.
So the next part is choose a heritage and assign one action dot based on your heritage choice. So on the character sheet in the PDF that I sent you, under the name and look and all that stuff, there's a section that says Heritage. There's Akros, the Dagger Isles, Eruvia, Severos, Skovlin, and Tikaros. And I will give you the description of those places. Akros, dark forests, rocky hills, rich coastal cities, and some mining colonies deep inland. The Akarosi are sometimes called Imperials, since the Imperium began there. They are generally fair-skinned and dark-haired. Duskfall is on the north end of the island of Akaros. So all of these are islands, and they're separated by an inky black sea.
Getting a lot of... Steve, have you seen Son of the Black Sword or heard about it at all?
I haven't, no.
It's a very interesting book. It's basically demons come from the sea.
Oh.
Yeah, and so mankind hates water, and they're stuck on their one continent. And there's the Protectors, which are Grammaton clerics meets Jedi, basically.
Nice.
And the main character ends up leaving the Order rather violently. It's a good book.
As always.
The author does action very, very well.
What's it called again?
Son of the Black Sword. Gerrit, it's written by the same guy that did Grim Noir.
Oh, okay.
But it's much more classic fantasy than
Than that or Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
Cool, I'll have to check it out. All right.
Anyway,
so that's
I would say
Akros.
if you have the chance, the audiobook, while not as good as some of the other audiobooks, the audiobook's pretty good.
Okay.
So Audible does a good job.
Yeah. I like a lot of their stuff.
Anyway, moving on. Sorry.
Okay. So then there's Severos. Wind-swept grass plains outside the imperial cities. Some native Severosi still live in free tribes, scavenging the Deathlands on their ghost-hunting horses. They are generally brown-skinned and dark-haired. Then there's Eruvia, golden deserts. People say that some positions of power are openly held by demons in Eruvia. They are generally amber-skinned and dark-haired. Dagger Isles, tropical, jungle. People there live without lightning barriers. How do they manage that? They are generally copper-skinned and dark-haired. That's another note about the world. The sea is inky black, and it's basically a post-apocalyptic setting, because anything outside of like the civilized, outside of the cities, is called the Deadlands, and it's basically, or the Deathlands, and there are ghosts and other things that haunt those regions, and it's really dark, and the sun has basically is dying, and so it's like perpetually nighttime, and a lot of the cities like Duskwall are surrounded by an energy barrier called the lightning barriers, and that keeps ghosts and spirits and demons out for the most part. So
Sweet.
yeah. So that's what it's talking about there with they live without light and barriers. So the people from the Dagger Isles are generally copper-skinned and dark-haired. Skovlin, cold, mountainous, wild. The last holdout from Imperial control, the War of Skovlin Unity ended only a few years ago. They are generally pale-skinned and fair-haired or red-haired. So they're basically your Vikings. or Scotsman. Tikaros, a far-off land disconnected from the Empire. People say the Tikarosi, rudely called strangers, have demon blood. If you play one, tell the group what your telltale demonic physical feature is. Do you have talons, sharp black eyes, a shadow that moves differently than you do? And then basically what I said before, but the islands have wildly different climates due to magical weirdness from the cataclysm. The water of the void sea seems to be composed of opaque black ink, but it's possible to see constellations of shimmering stars far below the surface. The sun is a dim ember, providing only purplish twilight at dawn and dusk, leaving the world in darkness otherwise. And then there's a note, don't expect realism here.
So I'm probably just going to be from Akaros.
Okay. So then you'll go over to your skills, which are to the right there. And that's Hunt, Study, Survey, Tinker, Finesse, Prowl, Skirmish, Wreck, Attune, Command, Consort, and Sway. And you get to put a tick in one of those.
Just any one of those? Or...
Any one of those, yep. And your max starting rank is 2.
Yep.
So...
And what does Sway do? That's talking someone into...
Yeah,
it's
so...
diplomacy, basically.
Yeah, so basically Hunt is basically what it is, what it sounds like. You're hunting animals. It also covers, like, ranged attacks. Study is basically delving deep into a topic, whereas Survey is, like, scanning a room or, so you could use Study to, like, watch a person and like pick up their mannerisms and that kind of stuff, whereas Survey would be more like, I'm going to look around and see what goods and treasures and little things that I can find here. Tinker is basically, a lot of these are what
tinkering.
They sound like. Yeah, tinkering. You can also, I think the Whisper, or maybe it's the Leech, can use it for healing.
It's the Leech. I think.
It's the Leech. Finesse is more dexterity-esque thing, so dueling, clever dexterity.
Prowl is more sneaking.
Prowl is more sneaking. Skirmish is more of close-up fighting. Wreck is basically like destroying stuff. Attune is going to be your magical ability and your ability to fall into line with the ghost realm. Command can be commanding as in being a leader, or it can also be intimidation. Consort is going to be more of like your seduction, smooth talking, getting in good with people, whereas Sway is more of your straight up diplomacy and how rhetorical can you be, how good of an argument can you put together, that kind of thing.
Well, while I'm deciding on this, you can go ahead and Gerrit figure out what you want to do. But
okay. And for that heritage, so you pick where you're from, but then also pick like what your family did. So like the example in the sheet is a Scovelin ore miner. So you could be Akarosi, and you could be, depending on what background you want to take, you could connect it to that in the future, or you could have it be something totally different.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are you thinking, Gerrit?
I'm thinking Tikaros. That just sounds fun.
Yeah, be a stranger.
Yeah, since I'm going to be a Whisper anyways. That makes sense.
Okay.
I don't know what makes me strange. That's what I'm trying to find out here. Mm-hmm. Ooh, I have a beard and it moves.
There you go. So is it like a tentacly beard?
Yeah, we'll do a tentacly beard.
Okay.
It's very thin and wispy.
All right. That's creepy, but
yeah, creepy.
That's what it's there for.
I don't know what my family did though.
That's right. You don't have to come up with something like that. It's more of to give you a guideline for what to put your action dot in.
Ah, got it. I'm gonna put it in Prowl. I think my family were thieves.
Okay.
Plus with Fog, I can make a good cover by night.
Yeah.
Where's that? Is that under character?
So that, I think that should be under playbook. So.
Oh, there we go. I see.
Yep.
All right. So I already see the Whisper has 2 dots next to a tune.
Yeah. So whatever you have. So the Cutter has 2 next to Skirmish and 1 next to Command. So go ahead and fill those in.
Mm-hmm. And
then the same with the Whisper, 2 with Attune and 1 with Study. So at the end of this, you should start with 7 action dots.
Okay.
Did you figure out what you were assigning that to, Siege?
Yes, I went with Hunt.
Nice.
So I'm good close up, and I'm good from decent far away.
Perfect. So then you're going to go on to the background, and then assign an additional action dot based on your background choice. So you could be an academic, a laborer, a law, trade, military, noble, underworld.
I'm probably just gonna go military.
So in the inky black sea of the void sea, there are giant leviathans, which are basically like these monstrous demons that are terrifying and horrible. But there are leviathan hunters that go out and kill them like whalers, and harvest their blood for mystical reasons. So I mean, you could be a Leviathan hunter. You could be a soldier, a former soldier from Dustwall. You could be from somewhere else in Akaros, or be a mercenary. Kind of whatever floats your boat, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking military too.
Okay.
Sneaky.
So that's probably how we knew each other.
Yeah, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very, very sneaky, sir. Probably shouldn't have chose Whisper if I want to be really sneaky, though.
That's all right.
You call me the sneaky snook. Do we put like another dot somewhere, or is that?
So after, when you choose your background, you can put another dot. So I mean, if you're going with military backgrounds, I mean, you could do something like skirmish, since you don't have anything in skirmish.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Okay.
Myself a little skirmishy power.
Yep. And then after you're done with that, you get to assign 2 more action dots.
Oh, okay.
And none of your dots can begin higher than 2. So skirmish for Siege and attune for Gerrit can't be raised. Got to give it to other stuff.
All right, I'm all set there.
Okay. What did you choose?
I put one more. I put 1 in finesse, and then I have a total of 2 in consort.
Oh, nice. Yeah, and all the actions you can see on the character creation sheet. They have a little description of each of them. Now, the next phase is items carried, which basically you pick that before you start a score. So we can gloss over that right now, and then before we start a score, we can talk about whether you're taking a light, a normal, or a heavy load. And that so basically you don't have to. This is another one of the nice things about this game is you don't have to plan out what equipment you have with you, and you also don't have to plan how you're going to accomplish a heist or a score. And there's the load option where you can pick, basically as things come up and you need items, you just mark them off and then you have that item with you. And then when you're actually on the score, you have the opportunity to flashback to create your plans. So, when you come up against something, you can be like, oh wait, I want to have set up this thing back here. And if it's something that you could have normally done with no problem, then you can make a roll for it, see how that goes. If it's something that's a little bit outside of what was maybe probable, then you have to take 1 stress in order to do that. And then if it's something that's like really outlandish, then you have to take 2 stress. But you can totally go back. So gone are the days of 3 hours of planning before going on a mission. Unless, of course, you want to do that.
But at the same time, that was always a lot of fun, just BSing, sitting through, talking about all that stuff.
Indeed, yeah. And I think the nice thing about the system is that it accommodates for either way you want to play. So if you want to sit around and plan really hard, you can do that. If you want to just jump right in, you can do that too. And it's also easy to plan a little bit and then say, all right, well, let's just jump into it, and if anything comes up, we can always just flashback. So you have a nice in between. So we can skip over the load for now. So now we're going to choose a close friend and rival. So you'll notice on your sheet there are a series of names, strange friends, and you pick one of those, mark the up arrow is your friend, and the down arrow is your enemy.
Yeah, it's a green box or a red box is what I got. So.
Yep.
Where's that under?
So if you go to Playbook
Mm-hmm.
and then scroll down to Shady Friends,
Oh, okay.
and then if you look at the PDF that I sent you,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, and then you've got Nyrix, a possessor ghost, Skurlock, a vampire, and pick one of those as the one that's your friend, and that goes in the green box.
She's a witch. And then one of them has to be a rival as well.
One has to be a rival, yeah.
Ooh, okay.
All right, I'm all set there.
Okay. Then you get to pick your vice. This is another cool part of the system. Everybody's got some sort of vice, and when you take stress, which you will, undoubtedly, the only way to get rid of stress, the most effective way to get rid of stress, I should say, is to indulge in your vice during your downtime. And your vice could be faith, you could be dedicated to an unseen power, forgotten god, ancestor, etc. Could be gambling, you crave games of chance, betting on sporting events, etc. Luxury, expensive and or ostentatious displays of opulence. Obligation, you're devoted to a family, a cause, a charity, etc. Pleasure, gratification from lovers, food, drink, drugs, art, theater, etc. Stupor, you seek oblivion in the abuse of drugs, drink to excess, getting beaten to a pulp and fighting fits, etc. Or weird, you experiment with strange essences, consort with rogue spirits, observe bizarre rituals or taboos, etc. And so it's a way to get into trouble and also at the same time remove stress. And the reason you want to remove stress is that if you fill up your stress bar, which I believe there are 9 boxes in the stress bar, if you fill that up, you then take a trauma. And when you've taken 4 traumas, you can no longer continue playing your character. You have to retire. So
Forced retirement.
yeah.
Done. Interesting.
So yeah, so your vice, mark it down in there, and then as you take stress and trauma, we'll do those. And then the cold, haunted, obsessed, paranoid, reckless, soft, unstable, and vicious. Those are the traumas, and so you mark which one you take, and then those become either like a role-playing. You get to choose how much you want to interact with them. So mechanically speaking, if you get 4 of those, your character's kaput. However, getting to those 4, I mean, if you take cold, which is like you're deadened emotionally, you can play that and get experience if you use that to kind of like get your character into trouble or put your character in interesting places. Or you can just completely ignore it. It's up to you how much that comes into play for your character. But if the system does encourage you, if you do play into it, then you get rewards for it.
Nice.
So I see, Gerrit, you've got pleasure written down there.
Yeah.
Excellent.
He loves his food.
Okay.
Mine's gambling.
Gambling.
Beard and food and women.
And drink.
Of course, drink. Yeah, that's always there.
And
Oh, yeah,
everything.
that's in there.
And then now, as far as the purveyor goes, we can get into that kind of as we play. But there is, and maybe I'll send you this before we go do our next session. But there's a list of the different purveyors of different vices in the city, and we can come up with our own if we want to. So like if in the course of play you're like, oh, there's this restaurant that I really like, and I go there and they know me and I gorge myself, and we can make our own way on that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it as far as creating character. What are your abilities again? Let's go over those just so we have them. What dots do you have and stuff?
I've got Hunt 1, Finesse 3, Finesse 1, Skirmish 2,
Okay.
Command 1, and Consort 2.
Okay. And then for the 3 abilities you see there, Insight, Prowess, and Resolve.
Yep.
The way you figure those is it's the first action dot in each of the skills under that item determines what your rank is. So, for instance, Siege, you have 1 in Insight because you only have 1 in Hunt.
Okay.
You have 2 for Prowess because you have 1 in Finesse and 1 in Skirmish, and then you have an additional 1 in Skirmish. And then you have 2 for Resolve for the same reason.
Got it.
And those are used to resist harm or consequences. So when you fail a roll, I get to do bad things to your character, and then you can either take that bad thing, or you can take stress and roll your insight, resolve, or prowess in order to resist those, and it's 6 minus the die, the number that you roll on your die is the amount of stress you take, and then you reduce the effect of the consequence or the harm. So like, say you're going to take like a level 2 harm, but like somebody's stabbing you, and you roll prowess to try and resist. So you're going to take stress, but that level 2 harm might get bumped down to a level 1 harm, or I might say, depending on the circumstance, oh, you completely avoid it, and so you take no harm, but you take the stress. All right, Gerrit, what do you have?
So you've got 1 in study, 1 in survey, 2 in prowl, 1 in skirmish, and then 2 in attune.
Cool. So your resolve is actually going to be 1, because it's the first. Like, it's a little difficult with this sheet here, but if you look at the PDF, and you see where it shows the line going down through the dots, and there's the first dot, and then there's the 3 dots to the right, next to each ability on the PDF. So those first dots, you add those up, and that's what gives you your...
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So,
okay, so
yeah, so you've got 1 for resolve, you've got 2 for prowess, and you've got 2 for insight.
Got it. Okay.
All right. So then the only other thing to do with the actual characters themselves is to name them, and you can provide looks and all that stuff if you want to type that in.
I'll get back to looks in a second, but
yeah,
I think I got everything else all set.
I like it. Cool.
I'll list the names here somewhere, don't I?
There are a list of names on the PDF on the right hand side.
It's the playbook PDF at the character creation all the way to the right side.
Oh, hey, look at that.
It's all sorts of good stuff.
Oh, I like that name better. Hicks. That's all you know with my name is Hicks. Nothing else.
So then the next part, kind of while Garrett's finishing that up, the next part is going to be figuring out what kind of gang you want to be. So that's where we're going to go to the Blades in the Dark Crews PDF that I sent you.
And
then we'll step through the crew creation. Name Hicks, alias Hicks.
Hicks. Yep. That's all there is. And so this is what everyone has to decide on as a group, the crew.
Yep.
I don't really care. They all look cool.
So yeah, so there's assassin, breakers, which is like mercenaries. You could be a cult. You could be purveyors of vice. You could be smugglers. Be shadows, thieves, spies, and saboteurs. So what kind of sounds interesting?
I'm kind of thinking smugglers.
Works for me. Smuggling, thieving, sneeving, prowling. Big damn heroes, sir. We can work that in there, right?
Heck yeah.
Yeah, smuggling sounds fun. I can create a fog. You can beat the fog up.
So what do you want your smuggler crew name to be?
Ooh, that's a good question.
All right. Well, let's see if we can't come to some sort of conclusion by building this. So, just like with character creation, we're going to choose a special ability. So if you go to smugglers, any of those special abilities there can be your starting ability.
Reavers, man. Take -1 heat.
Oh, of course, pick smugglers. So you actually get to start with a vehicle.
Yep.
Cool.
We're basically like, I mean, smugglers just really looks like it's designed to be like the Serenity style of play. Like, I just said smugglers because it's like, I think that makes sense with like all of us and the kind of character I'm playing. But yeah, just like part of the family. Create one of your vehicles as a cohort. Vehicle is upgraded. The quality starts at 2. It can use teamwork actions. So the vehicle can help us.
We call the vehicle Bob.
All right, so what looks good? Which one do you want to take for the special ability?
I'm kind of thinking just passing through to kind of keep our heat down.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking with that or Renegades, so...
I think if we use just passing through, we won't have to use Renegades.
Well, the nice thing is that you also will get to, as you go on missions and stuff like that, you will be able to gain experience and level up your... So you could take Renegades next time.
Yep.
When your heat is 4 or less... Actually, someone want to read it off to me? When your heat is 4 or less...
we gain +1 die to deceive people when we pass ourselves as ordinary citizens.
So you'll notice over on the corner there that there's a character sheet for the crew.
Yep.
Alright, so the next thing, and I'm filling that out as we go through this. So we're going to choose reputation. So are you ambitious, brutal, daring, honorable, professional, savvy, subtle, or strange?
What were those again?
Ambitious, brutal, daring, honorable, professional, savvy, subtle, or strange. And so
I'm thinking daring.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Daring or strange. So
daring, okay.
Commonality will go with daring.
Perfect.
Yep.
So when you reinforce your reputation as daring smugglers on scores, you gain experience. So the next step is to mark 2 upgrade boxes. So upgrades are on the bottom right-hand side where it says crew upgrades.
Mm-hmm.
Anything. So you've got 2 points to spend basically. So you could spend all 2 and create a new cohort. And a cohort is basically like it's a small gang or an expert, somebody that you can call on to participate in jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's all those other options as well, like rigging, camouflage, elite rovers, and then the lair and the quality. So like if you pick quality gear, that means that any of your gear that you have is going to be better than the average gear. And so that'll help you contend with higher tiered challenges when you're on mission.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm thinking since we need to try and pass ourselves, we get bonuses to try and pass ourselves off as ordinary people. Smugglers rigging for one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Camouflage.
I'd be okay with it. So no one can see our boat.
Yeah. We're trying to be hidden, sneaky.
Yep. No one can see the Bob.
Is this 4 stories and has loud music?
Camouflage.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Alright, cool. Okay, so we got smugglers rigging and camouflage. Perfect. And now we need to choose a favorite contact. And again,
I don't know about you, Garrett, but I gotta go with the tavern owner.
Yeah.
Esme?
Yep.
Alright. And I think this is probably a good place to talk about the vehicle before we move on. Do you want a boat, a carriage, or something else?
Assuming airship is out of the question.
For now, yeah. I don't know. It does say others, so I mean, we could totally, if you guys want to go airship, I mean, we could totally go that way.
I'm thinking carriage mostly just so we can move things through the streets. I'm not sure,
Mm-hmm.
We'll get it to you inside the city.
Got it. Okay. We have a carriage.
We have a carriage.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, we should carriage around shrubberies as our cover. I'll go by Roger.
Alright, so now is where we need a crew name. And actually, you don't need a name to start. You can always acquire one depending on how things go. You should also describe the location of your lair and what it looks like. So let's start with the lair first. Kind of, if you go over the Roll20, you can see I've got the map set up there. So these are the different districts of Duskwall. So White Crown, sprawling estates of the Lord Governor, Hunter Commander, Master Warden, and Duskwall Academy. So that's kind of one of the richest places. Brightstone, grand mansions and luxury shops of the wealthy elite. Charter Hall is where the city's civic offices and hub for shops, artisans, and commerce. Six Towers, a formerly rich district now worn down and dilapidated. Silkshore is the Red Lamp district and artist community. Night Market, the trade center for exotic goods imported by rail. Many vendors also trade in illicit goods. Crowsfoot, a cramped neighborhood of multi-level streets ruled by gangs. The Docks, rough taverns, tattoo parlors, fighting pits, and warehouses. Barrowcleft, residences and markets for the farmers who work the fields and ealeries. Coalridge, the remnants of Duskwall's original hilltop mining settlement now home to laborers and industrial factories. Char Hollow, a maze of tenements and squalid row houses. Or Dunslow, a labor camp served by convicts and a ghetto for the destitute poor. So, real positive place.
Yeah. I was just thinking, we got like an abandoned, or not abandoned, but a warehouse at the docks. Kind of the idea is, again, people bring in things and we're their contact for getting it around the city. So either the docks or night market.
What do you think, Gerrit?
You know what? Gerrit, how about this? Kind of like we have a shop in night market that never really sells anything, but it still exists.
Yeah.
Like, it's been there for ages, but no one ever remembers anyone really going in and buying something. I know these places.
So we're thinking night market then?
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah, I was either that or Silk Shore are the two I was thinking, so.
Yeah, that would have been a good choice, too.
Either way, and I mean, just because your lair is in one place doesn't mean you can't operate in the other places.
Well, but yeah, we'll go with night market.
Okay. So night market, and then like a curio shop kind of thing.
Yeah.
So maybe you sell like little trinkets and like weird oddities, but like you said, it's like most people just walk past it as like, oh, it's been there for ages, and we don't really. It's not somewhere I would like to go.
Oddities shop.
Pretty much, yeah.
Heavy on the oddities.
Okay.
Collectibles specialties. I've got a name generator program I'm using, and it's like that was one of them. It's like that doesn't really go together.
That's why nobody comes by. Have you heard of this place?
Yeah.
No.
It's like, oh, it's only for people who collect things, special things. I like it. All right, so then
I would say, or we've got assorted novelties bank.
Odd.
I think it just
get too many round people. Is this a bank? No, this is not a bank. We don't like trick here.
It's literally like I know the program has like generates 1, 2, or 3 words, and then it has pieces of the words.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that it generated was porn bank. Okay, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. All right, so you start with 0. You start at tier 0. So you guys are basically just starting out, and you are trying to scrabble your way to any sort of footing.
Mm-hmm.
You start with a weak hold. So each tier has weak, firm, and strong holds. So that just determines kind of like how powerful you are in that tier, and then you can go up to the next tier, and we'll deal with that kind of as we come across it. So you start with tier 0, weak hold, and 0 rep, but you do start with 2 coins. So and a coin, I mean, basically a coin is it represents
abstract representation of money.
A certain amount of money that you can throw around. So like you can spend coins to increase like the success levels. Like if you roll a 2, you could spend a coin on a certain kind of roll to bring that up to a 4 or 5. So you go from a failure to a partial success.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of thing. The other thing that we have left is assigning positive and negative ticks within a tier 1 or tier 2 faction. This represents past interaction. So each of you is going to do that. So let me get to my faction sheet. Alright, Siege, we'll start with you. So we need a positive, so like a +1 status and a -1 status with, you get to pick 1 positive and 1 negative.
Okay.
So amongst the criminals, so there's different sections of factions. So I'll list off the titles of the different sections, and then we can talk about which ones you kind of think you want to be attached to, and then I'll read off the tier 1 and tier 2 in those sections.
Okay.
So there's the criminal underworld, there are city institutions, there are labor and trade, there's faith and weirdness, there's citizenry, and then there are some other kind of miscellaneous ones.
Probably criminal underworld. I'm thinking.
Okay, that's a good place to start. So yep. I'm just going to read off the names, and then if any of them kind of pop out as you want to know more about them, So these are tier 2 or tier 1. So we've got the Crows, the Lamp Blacks, the Red Sashes, the Dimmer Sisters, the Grinders, the Bill Hooks, the Wraiths, the Grey Cloaks, Ulf Ironborn, the Foghounds, and the Lost.
Do any of those operate in the night market? I mean, I thought I saw some of them had like...
That's a good question.
Because they had some example ones in the PDFs you gave us.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like they say exactly where they...
Yeah, it's kind of vague. The other thing that we could do is we could just skip this step entirely and just kind of do a couple runs with scores and see what happens and just basically build from there.
Yeah, because no, it's like I want to see everything about all of these groups before I pick. I feel this is a big decision.
Yeah, and so maybe that's what I'll do. I'll do a PDF for those factions and I'll send that over for next time. And so then you guys can look it over and pick something off of that.
Okay, sounds good.
Let's because I know it's kind of hard to listen to me list them off and then go, all right, wait, which one was what? Where was who?
Yeah.
And then the only other thing is if you can go to the smugglers page, and then so you see under where it says crew XP, execute a successful smuggling or territory control operation, contend with challenges above your current station, bolster your crew's reputation or develop a new one, express the goals, drives, inner conflicts, or essential nature of the crew. Doing those things on scores is how you gain experience, and once you fill up those hash marks, you get to pick a new ability or do an upgrade or something like that. It's kind of the same as leveling up.
Right.
All right.
But it's more of a we discuss and we figure out, like it gives us goals to work for earning XP instead of just, hey, you finished, you get XP. That's how I see it.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's kind of, some of it's open for negotiation.
Aggressive negotiations.
Yeah. All right. So that's it for crew creation. Unless, again, we can hold off on naming the crew until you guys start to get some stuff under your belts.
Yeah, I think we'll hold off until we get some experience under our belt.
Perfect. All right. Scores go in a couple of different ways. So you can, if you look at the smugglers, the crew page in the PDF, you'll see that you have your lair, and then you have different boxes around you that are connected by little avenues, and they say turf or other various things. So those represent places that belong to rival gangs that you can try to go and take those over. And that would be a score, would basically be you would have to come up with a plan for how you're going to do that, and then you go and try to do it, and if you succeed, then you get to take over that and increase your standing a little bit, gain some reputation, and then there will be repercussions for that, of course. And then other things, other scores can be, since you guys are smuggling, that's you could be going to the docks to pick up a shipment and delivering it somewhere, or there's all sorts of different things that you can do. So I guess the easiest thing to do really is to just jump in.
Yeah, no, probably.
Most definitely.
So I think for my ease, what we're gonna say is that Esme, what's the name of the tavern that Esme owns? She's your contact for the crew.
Esme. Ale House of the Goats.
What was that?
I just typed it for a name generator. This one popped up, the Ale House of the Goats.
Well, I got Beer Court.
Beer Court.
Beer Court. Today on Beer Court, dramatic music.
Dun, 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 dun. Drink until you can't drink anymore. Only then will you be released at Beer Court.
Well, that can work both ways. Drink until you can't drink any more than you release from Beer Court, or they trial new beers and it's Beer Court.
Oh, I like that better. I mean, I'd like to be
Because
part
it's
of
like,
that.
they try new beers and that are made from around it, and depending on how long that's kind of their gimmick. Is it's microbrews.
Mm-hmm.
It's local microbrews just competing to see who's the best. So like the beers rotate every week or so. It's kind of like there's a place down in Kalamazoo that's run like a stock exchange. So prices change in real time based on how in demand those drinks are. So if everyone's ordering an Appletini, the price of an Appletini is going to go up. So anyway, I'm going to be right back. I got to grab something to drink.
Okay. Yeah, let's take a couple minute break.
Okay.